Welcome to Google Ads Unleashed, the podcast that helps you harness the power of Google Ads to increase sales for your online business. In an ever-changing Google Ads landscape, we uncover the latest strategies, techniques, and best practices for creating effective ad campaigns that deliver real results. And now your host, Jeremy Young.
Hello guys, and welcome back to Google Ads Unleashed with this new episode about competitor campaigns. Do they work? So first of all, I think what I'd like to do first is just to get behind the idea of competitor ideas. Well, what's the idea? What are they? How do you build them? And then I'm going to talk about whether they work or not. And if you do want to get them to work, what are the things that you need to do in order to make them work? So first of all, what are competitor campaigns? Traditionally, competitor campaigns are nothing special. It's not a campaign format like search or display or something. It's literally just a search campaign that contains maybe one ad group per competitor that you've listed, or just one single ad group, and you pop in all of your competitors' names into that ad group, and you actually send traffic towards it, right? So you bid on your competitors' keywords. The idea behind it is relatively simple. So basically what you're doing is you're trying to get click share and market share of your competitors' search volume, because all of your competitors may be running TikTok ads, they might be running Meta, they might be doing all of these other channels which generate awareness of their product and their brand. And there will be people searching for your competitors' brand names, and like you have a brand campaign, they probably have their own branded campaign as well, hoovering up all of these clicks and conversions of people who are actively researching the brand and are trying to convert that way. And basically the idea behind it is that you sort of try and piggyback off the search volume, right? So if you have a product that's extremely similar, if you have a direct competitor, like an A level competitor, then maybe someone might be considering your search ad instead, clicking on yours and then buying. And I've already alluded to how you actually build those competitor campaigns. It's very straightforward. You can just maybe even duplicate your brand campaign, one ad group, and you chuck in all of your competitor keywords in there. It's really as straightforward as that. So there's not much that I can say about this part, this part of the podcast, because it's all straightforward. But basically, the core thing I want to discuss today is, do they work, and what can you actually do to make them work? So the short answer is, it's always worth testing, but it's very unlikely that they will work. And why is that? Because Google realized people are doing this many moons back now, when I remember running sort of my first campaigns and running Google Ads for the first time. The quality score was not, well, it's equally as important, but it's obviously grown in importance over time. And what people were doing were literally, they were building knockoff brands of products that have made a name for themselves, and actively piggyback off of the search volume of those brands, right? So they would make sure that they're always in position 2 or 3 in the search ads, and piggyback of people's hard work to actually get their brand name out there. And what Google has done is, over time, has penalized this more and more. Why is that? Because, as you know, the quality score has 3 major components. That is expected click-through rate. The second one is ad relevance, and the third one is landing page experience. And pretty much on all 3 fronts, your ads or your competitor campaign will always fail against the actual competitor, right? Because if someone searches for your competitor, they want to find the most relevant ad is your competitor's ad. It has the maximum relevance. It has the highest click-through rate because people will click through on there. So your expected click-through rate is going to be very poor. And the third thing, of course, is that the relevance of your page is not as high as your competitor's landing page, right? Makes total sense. So what you're always going to be struggling with is extremely high CPCs, right? Because that is what you will have to do in order to compensate for the terribly high click costs, right? For the terribly poor quality score. The poor quality score means you have to, in order to achieve the same ad rank as your competitor, you have to pay through the nose. So very often it's simply not profitable. So that's something that you will always have to bear in mind. Now, there's a few things that you can do in terms of trying to maybe increase the ad relevance a little bit. But there are two components which you need to consider before you run competitor campaigns. First of all is a legal consideration. So first of all, you can't use very often your competitors' keywords. You can use the keywords, but you just can't use them in the ad, right? So you can't say, hey, our product is better than X, Y, and Z, right? Because Google will eventually penalize you if your competitor pipes up. If your competitor's brand is trademarked, they can actually submit a report to Google and your ad will be taken down. And although you can run that risk, it's sometimes maybe not worth the risk. And on top of that, once you have like that blemish on your brand, it's really not a good entry in your brand's record to have such a poor to have basically an ad banned in this way. And then there's also ethical considerations. So you might be searching for your own brand and you will see maybe a few competitors who are cheeky enough to try it with you. Sometimes not even deliberate, right? This is something that you want to be thinking about as well. Sometimes if competitors, for instance, run broad match search campaigns or similar, or Performance Max sometimes does it automatically as well. It shows your ads for competitors without you actually wanting to do that. So you just want to be really thinking about the ethical impact of it as well, because you are in the end robbing someone else of their hard-earned traffic. And the second thing that you might want to consider in the ethical sphere is that if you throw the first stone, you might start something that you don't really want to start. If your competitor sees your ad appear below them or even above them, then they might undertake absolutely everything in their power to outgun you as well and attack your ads as well. So you don't want to start a fight in that regard. So these are all the things that you need to consider. So how do you make them work if needs be? Okay. So so there's really realistically three ways to make competitor campaigns work. First of all, they tend to work if you are the market leader or if you have really great, command a great presence in the market as well. That means your conversion rates are generally very strong. You're very well known. A good example would be, for instance, let's say everyone has heard of the hoodie, right? The hooded blanket, and there's tons of other brands which have done the same sort of thing since then. And now imagine the hoodie would bid on keywords of hooded blanket competitors. You could actually position yourself as the original, right? This is the original hooded blanket, and don't buy anywhere else, like that sort of way. And you can do that, right? Because the CPCs will be high, yes, but the conversion rate will be still so strong to overcome the high CPCs, and you can still make it work in order to gain the market share of your competitors in this way. So that's one thing, one way to actually make it work, right? So you have to have a super strong product, super strong conversion rate. You have to be really sure of what you're doing, and that way you can actually make it work. Then the second thing you have to be aware of, it has to be a direct competitor. So actually there's 4 things, not 3 things. So it has to be a direct competitor as well. So it doesn't work if you bid on branded searches which are similar to yours, right? What I mean, so there's A, B, and C grade competitors. You can probably look this up, but A grade competitors are people who make really exactly the same product as you. B grade is people who are maybe, something like stockists, who have a similar product as yours, but it's like not what the entire brand is about. And C grade competitors are something like Amazon, right, who will just bid on all of your keywords anyway, because they have money to throw in the wind. So you really want to only do this with A grade competitors, right? So this is something that you need to think about. The third thing that you need to think about is you have to be clever with it, right? You can be sometimes a bit cheeky with it as well. So what I mean by this, 2 examples. One famous one is that when the iPhone 5S came out, that Samsung S5 Galaxy did a search ad on that, and also was cheeky about it, saying, "Oh, 5S, don't you mean S5?" Right? That was the core headline of the Google ad. And that way you could trick the algorithm a little bit, because, if someone searches for the new S5 or the new 5S, then Google wasn't clever enough to understand that the landing page and the ad relevance, etc., is actually about the 5S and not the S5. Because it's just thought it's interchangeable. So that way they tricked the quality score, right, and got really, really cheap clicks of iPhone search volume without even mentioning the branded name, right? So another example I had many, many, many years ago was that we had a brand that we looked after, and they did a certain subscription box, and their brand sounded very similar to a competitor's brand. So what we did, we bid on the competitor brand's keyword in a separate campaign, like I described before. And what we did is we said, "Oh, didn't you mean X, Y, and Z?" Sort of our own brand. Because you were able to, say that, you were able to say this, and that way we tricked out the expected click-through rate and the ad relevance for that keyword. So that's a way to make them work. So be cheeky about it. And the final way, which I'd say you can make them work as well, is if you're very have very specific volume for keywords of your competitors, and they're looking for alternatives. So what do I mean by that? So I've seen this in the past very often, for instance, with MailChimp, and Klaviyo and Drip and all of those email CRMs, with that people would search for something like MailChimp alternative, and then you can actually position your brand or product as the perfect alternative to what people search for. So Klaviyo did this for a while. I've seen ads like that before. It said more or less something amongst the lines, the Klaviyo, the perfect alternative. Yeah. So that way you can actually piggyback off your competitor's search volume, where people are actually looking specifically for alternatives. You can even make pages then about this as well. So specific landing pages, that's allowed in many ways. Sometimes you're obviously not allowed to say the specific brand name. You have to check that with your legal team, but you can make comparison pages, right? And all of those, for instance, email CRMs are very, very good examples, have those comparison pages, right? So they have a page which compares MailChimp to Klaviyo, all of its functions and pros and cons. And you also have that in many, many other spheres as well. Like sometimes even not as a specific page, but how often have you gone onto a product page to buy something, and one of the third or fourth product images is like us versus them, right? So like some sort of comparison to highlight the core features of your product or brand. So to sum it up, competitor campaigns, you bid on your competitors' keywords. The idea is to piggyback on their sort of work, which they do at the top funnel to generate the search volume for their brand. They do work if you can, first of all, you have to consider whether you want to do it as well, legally, or whether there's ethical considerations as well. But to make them work, you either have to have a super, super strong conversion rate that overcomes the high CPCs that you will encounter. You have to be either very clever about it, so that means that you can do a play on words, etc., to trick the quality score a little bit. You either have to piggyback off search volume for like the alternative, etc. And the fourth thing that I mentioned was that you what was it before? Well, the fourth thing I forgot now, but obviously you can wind back 2 minutes to listen to it. So that's competitor campaigns. All in all, they do work, but you have to do a little bit of work about it and see, whether it's something for you. I'd always give it a crack, because, it's a difficult world out there, and unfortunately marketing or generally advertising is no place for niceties, realistically. So you just have to do what's right for you and try to make the most of that. If you need help with anything, simply send us an email. It should be in the podcast listing. Send me an email at jeremy@young&digital-marketing if you need any help with your Google Ads, whether it's competitor campaigns, whether it's other things. And you can always write to us with any question that you have. On this note, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Google Ads Unleashed. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating and a review. For more information or to connect with Jeremy, check him out online at www.younganddigital.marketing. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.